Coming up next on City Corner, we travel to the Missouri History Museum to talk with Mr. Tavis Smiley about his new exhibit, America I Am, the African American Imprint. Please stay tuned. Welcome to City Corner. I'm your host, Melanie Adams. Today, we travel to the Missouri History Museum to talk with Mr. Tavis Smiley about his new exhibit, America I Am, the African American Imprint. In addition to the exhibit, we also had the opportunity to sit in on a public program with Mr. Smiley. Now, let's turn to our interview. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. The first question I have, whenever I tell people about the exhibit, they always ask, why did Mr. Smiley decide to do an exhibit on African American culture? What should I tell them?
The short answer is, a few years ago, I was in Jamestown, Virginia. The first settlement, as you know, was established there. And I was there for the occasion of the 400th anniversary of the Jamestown settlement. I started wrestling with then this notion of how the story of the contributions that black folk have made to this country, how that story could be told in a more holistic, lively, interesting fashion. There are really two stories about the founding of America. One we know, the immigrant coming through Ellis Island, is a powerful narrative. It's a beautiful story, and America would not be were it not for the contributions of immigrants coming through Ellis Island. But the other founding of America is the Jamestown story, the story of the Africans, the story of the slaves, and succeeding over 400 years, black folk, against all of these odds. That story is not told so well. And this idea, keep in mind, was in process before Barack Obama ever showed up on the national scene, much less in the White House. So the long story short is that Du Bois, the great black intellectual, once asked the question, he put it this way: would America have been America without her Negro people? Would America have been America without her Negro people? Now we know the answer is no. No way that America exists without the contributions of black folk in every field of human endeavor. This exhibit brings that to life and does so without demonizing or casting aspersion on anybody else, but truly celebrates the contributions that black folk have made to make the country great.
Well, and I love the idea that you do use stories to tell the story of the African American culture, because I think that's really important. And with 400 years of history, there were millions of stories you could have told. So how did you really narrow it down to these 12,000 square feet?
Well, the first thing you do when you come up with an idea like America I Am, which I came up with, is to realize that you don't know what you're doing by yourself. So you put together a wonderful team of people, an advisory committee with all kinds of great African American scholars like Cornel West and Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Toni Morrison and Thelma Golden and Anna DeVere Smith and Lawrence Pijot. You put together John Fleming, a wonderful team of advisors. Then you hire a great curator and put together a great curatorial team. You hire a great design team. You bring all those folks together in a room and you cause them to wrestle with. And I'm a great moderator. It's what I do on TV and radio every day. I know how to ask the right questions. So you get all these folk into a room, you start asking all the right questions, and when you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. So no exhibit ever has attempted to tell the story of what black folk have done against these odds for 400 years. And that's why I say all the time that this is the biggest, the baddest, and the boldest exhibit ever. I mean, think about it. It is the most significant museum exhibition in the history of this country to even tackle trying to tell the story of what black folk have done, again, in every field of human interest or endeavor over a 400-year period. So here, as we sit in the museum right now, we've got about 12 or 13,000 square feet. That's a massive exhibit. This exhibit, when it's all rolled out, is almost 30,000 square feet. So the Missouri History Museum can't even contain all the stuff that we have in this exhibit when we're in larger spaces. We've used every inch of this building to lay out this exhibit. But in other cities, we've had more space, so we've had more of the exhibit. But when I say massive, it's a huge exhibit. 300 items, 12 galleries, 4 theaters in the round. It's a major exhibit. And so to be able to pull this together and to travel it for 4 years, we're only traveling 4 years, we're only going to 10 cities. So I'm grateful, and I hope more importantly, the citizens of this great city are grateful that St. Louis made the cut. Only 10 cities in 4 years.
Right. Well, and I think, St. Louis does have a strong and a rich African American history, so we are very excited that we have it here and we have the opportunity to experience the wonderful artifacts that are in it. As every time I go through the exhibit, I learn something new or I see something a little different. I guess, what is your favorite part? Or maybe I should say your favorite part right now.
Yeah. That's a great question. What is my favorite item, my favorite part?
Right.
And the answer is, without being flippant, is that it changes every day, literally. I've been to, this is, as I said, we're traveling to 10 cities over 4 years. So I've been to every city when the exhibit opens, and that's why I'm here in St. Louis now. So I've been to every city. Because I came up with the idea and hired the team to put it together, I've been involved in every aspect of curating the exhibit, designing the exhibit. Every artifact in the exhibit I've had to sign off on ultimately. So I know this thing pretty well, and I've seen it more times than I can even count. And every single time I walk through it, I develop a love and affinity for a new favorite item. One, because there are so many items in it, it's easy to fall in love when you got 300 different items, number one. It's like having 300 nice cars in your garage, and they ask you, which one do you like the most? Well, on any given day, my favorite car changes. Now, of course, I ain't got 300 cars. But these 300 items, and none of them belong to me, well, a few of them do, but not most of them. It changes every day because there's so many of them, number one. And number two, in every city, we switch out items. So in one city, we might have the Declaration of Independence. In another city, we'll have the Constitution. Another city will have the Emancipation Proclamation. So just in terms of paper items, they change out in every city because these items are so precious and they're so sensitive to the light that you can't leave them out too long without damaging the paper. That's how priceless some of these items are. So the paper objects switch out in every city, as do other artifacts. So the point is that in every city, the artifact listing sort of changes a bit. So my favorite changes all the time.
Well, I think one of my favorite things about this exhibit is it really is a family-friendly exhibit. And I know you are very passionate about youth and youth leadership and making sure that young people have the opportunity to learn how to lead. And so I guess, how do you see this exhibit tying into your into the role that you play with young people?
Yeah, it's a powerful question. The audience that I'm most in love with, the audience that I'm most concerned about, the audience I had most in mind when coming up with this idea was young people. I have a foundation, as you know, that works with young people, ages 13 to 18 specifically. What we do is to help them to develop their leadership capacity, their leadership potential, and greatness. And people know me as a TV guy and a radio guy, but I'm really, of all the things I do, most passionate about the work I do with young people. So the short answer is there's no feeling that I can describe, at least. There's no language. I don't have a language to describe to you what it feels like to watch young people by the thousands, by the tens of thousands, by the millions come through this exhibit over 4 years. And I can see their faces, the oohs, the ahs, the raised eyebrows, the questions, the things that they've learned about or heard about in class. And now they see it actually come to life with a real live artifact. They've all heard of Rosa Parks, many of them have. But when they see Rosa Parks' fingerprint arrest card, that's amazing for them. They've heard about Dr. King. When they see the jail cell that Dr. King sat in Birmingham, where he wrote that famous letter, that jail cell is a few steps away from where we're sitting right now. It's in St. Louis right now. They've heard about Michael Jackson, when they see Michael's items, or Prince's guitar from Purple Rain, or they've heard about Muhammad Ali. They see his glove and his robe. I mean, when this exhibit brings all this stuff to life through all of these real and rich artifacts. And so to see children's eyes just light up when they learn, when they fall in love, when they laugh, when they listen, it's just a beautiful experience for me. So the audience that I'm most passionate about seeing this are the children, because if history has any relevance, you know, it has greatest relevance to the next generation that has to make its own history, find its own way, make its own contribution, leave its own imprint. And that's why I love seeing the kids hang out.
And I guess my final question then is, what do you hope people take away from this? When they leave, what do you want them to say about America I Am, the African American Imprint?
That's a great question to close on. And the short answer to that question is this. Life is difficult for a lot of folk these days, especially in St. Louis and beyond. The economy is tough and unemployment is too high, especially and particularly for African Americans. I just looked at the crime rate in St. Louis the other day, and you guys have record homicides already at this point in the year. So the crime rate is up. There's always a link between tough times and crime going up. So politically, socially, economically, culturally, people are feeling more disenfranchised now than they felt in a long time. I saw a poll the other day that suggested that the majority of the American people now think our best days as a nation are behind us. That's troubling. I was just in China the other day for a couple of weeks. And in China, you get off the plane and you move amongst the people and you feel a sense of hopefulness about their future. Because China's kicking us in our behind right now and everybody knows it. So in China, you feel a sense of hopefulness as compared to that survey I just referenced in America where there's a lot of hopelessness. I feel that it's palpable as I travel around the country speaking and making appearances. I feel that hopelessness on the part of a lot of people. Now, why do I go there? Because an exhibit like this reminds us that we have succeeded against far greater odds, that we have triumphed over greater obstacles, that America's story is one of overcoming. That's why black folk gave that song to the world, "We shall overcome." That's why the national black anthem is "Lift every voice and sing." We all have a voice that needs to be raised. We can overcome when we work together. So this exhibit, more than anything else, reminds African Americans, white Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans. It reminds all of us, black, white, red, brown, or yellow, poor or rich, urban or suburban, educated or illiterate. It reminds all of us as Americans, Republican or Democrat, that as a nation, we can achieve, we can overcome, even in difficult times. And so I hope that everybody who comes to see this exhibit will be inspired by it, will be uplifted by it, will be motivated by it. When they walk out, as is the case for most people, they walk out standing just a little bit straighter, a little bit taller, the spine is more firm, smile on their face, joy in their heart, love in their soul. When you leave here, you cannot help but leave levitating. You're like walking on a cloud, especially if you've seen it. When you see the last exhibit and that closeout video, oh, it's a killer. So you won't leave here. You won't leave here without just being totally uplifted and inspired. And I'm hoping that that's what the exhibit will do for people, that it won't just educate them, that it won't just empower them, that it won't just influence them, but that it will uplift them, it will motivate them, it'll give them that push they need to keep moving forward. And I think in St. Louis, it's about time for something that's family friendly, that's more than affordable, easier to bring a couple folks here than going to a movie, and a lot less expensive. And it means a lot more to you. You'll take a lot more away. So it's the best ticket in town in St. Louis, and I hope folks take advantage of it.
When we return from break, we will join Mr. Smiley during the question and answer period of the public program. Please stay tuned.
When life's this hard, graduating can be even harder. But you can help Jose and the students in your community make it through by visiting boostup.org.
Keep watching STL TV. Experience St. Louis.
Why do people think there's more disagreement in the state legislature than in most families? My brother and I argue about everything, even which TV show to watch. Mom says our elected officials debate important issues every day, and they may argue too, but in the end they compromise, and that's how the best decisions are made. Am I missing something?
Learn more about how compromise works by logging on to www.representativedemocracy.org.
Keep
watching STL TV. Experience St. Louis.
Any questions?
What kind of service plan does this come with?
Unlimited.
Can I keep my same phone number? Does it have a camera? What's the warranty? Can I put my party shuffle on this?
Any questions?
No.
For the 10 questions everyone should know, go to ahrq.gov.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Eddie Entertainer, and you're watching the new STL TV. That's right, boy. Yeah.
Why do people think there's more disagreement in the state legislature than in most families? My brother and I argue about everything, even which TV show to watch. Mom says our elected officials debate important issues every day, and they may argue too, but in the end they compromise, and that's how the best decisions are made. Sometimes it just takes a little give and take to find common ground. I guess it's the same in the State House as it is in my house. It's okay to argue, as long as you're willing to compromise. You know, like when you want to see the Jonas Brothers, but your brother wants to watch SportsCenter, and you end up compromising and watch the new PBS special with your parents. Am I missing something?
Learn more about how compromise works by logging on to www.representativedemocracy.org.
When life's this hard, graduating can be even harder. But you can help David and the students in your community make it through by visiting boostup.org.
Hey St. Louis, I'm Cara Kay. Keep it right here on STL TV.
Welcome back to City Corner. Today, we're at the Missouri History Museum talking with Mr. Tavis Smiley about his new exhibit, America I Am, the African American Imprint. Now, we join Mr. Smiley as he talks with Sylvester Brown about current issues and the upcoming exhibit.
What does it feel like when African Americans turn against you?
Why it is our culture is one now of piling on. None of us is human and divine. We're all just human, which means that we are all subject to making mistakes. And if life is about anything, it is about redeeming ourselves. Every one of us deserves a chance at redemption because each and every one of us makes mistakes. The reason why we call this book Fail Up is because every one of us, if we're being honest, any success that you have achieved in your life, you've achieved because you learned how to fail up. Even if you don't process it that way, here's the bottom line. Anyone who is successful in any field of human endeavor, if they're being honest, will admit to you they've learned more from their failures than they ever learned from their successes. What you have to do is to tell the truth, to do it lovingly and with humility, and hope that people at some point are going to come into the knowledge of what it is that you are trying to say. And with regard to Obama, all that I ever tried to say was that we have to hold him accountable. That great presidents aren't born, they're made. That you have to push them into their greatness.
And I was just wondering, as you travel around the country, what your perspective is on banking and finance and the impact that the kind of illegal discrimination, we must call it, in this particular area means for African Americans.
The reason why I have a problem with banks, and I work with many banks, that don't mean I have to like them. The reason why I don't like them, though, is because they show up when you don't need them. They are never there when you do need them.
But how do we, what do we do?
No, here's a quick answer. I'm glad you asked that question, because the solution to this problem, to be frank about it, is to make them pay. Make them pay. You got to make them pay. I don't mean to suggest that you should not go to these banks. Indeed, you should. They make enough money off of us. They just put their branches where they want to put them. So the banks have to support us because we support them.
What are we supposed to do independently to make sure that our kids have a future?
Agitate, agitate, agitate. I wish there were another answer for you. I wish there was something easier I could tell you. I wish there was some other track record I could point to as an alternative. I don't know anything else. That's why I'm here supporting you. Because what you're about to do is going to agitate some people. If you're going to help some folk, you're going to agitate some folk. The only way you can help them. Harriet Tubman helped, but she agitated. Frederick Douglass, I'm talking about America I Am now. Frederick Douglass helped, but he agitated. Dr. King helped, but he agitated. You can't help folk without agitating other folk. And so what we have to do is to do what we've always done. Take our future into our own hands. Recognize that our destiny is inextricably linked to whether or not we are going to engage and involve ourselves in the process. We have to do what we've always done. When we know the government ain't coming, when we know the cavalry ain't coming, we got to rely on ourselves. I get sick of folks suggesting that black people have to be personally responsible. It suggests that 400 years of slavery and segregation and racism and discrimination, that we've survived that somehow without being personally responsible.
Right.
The only thing that makes an exhibit like America I Am possible, looking back on 400 years, is that folk found a way to be responsible to themselves and for themselves, even when other institutions ignored them.
Gotcha.
And I'm hoping that this exhibit, if it does nothing else, will remind people that no matter what we are up against in St. Louis right now, we've endured far worse.
Yes.
The odds have been much greater against us. We've encountered worse and bigger obstacles. We are here now 400 years later because we've endured much worse circumstances and conditions. And this exhibit is going to inspire, enlighten, empower, uplift people, and remind us when you walk through it, if we could survive this, and this, and this, and this, I know that we can keep dreaming and do more even in these difficult times.
Hello, Mr. Smiley.
Hello, sir.
My name's Roland Bell, and I work here in the museum, part of Teens Make History. And my question was, what can teens like myself can do to help better the community and get more programs and jobs for themselves? Because I see so many teens like myself in the streets getting murdered, having STDs, having babies at an early age, and it bothers me so much. All I hear on the news every day is negativity, and I'm sick of it. And I was wondering, what can we do to finally step up and be the leaders that we truly are?
Yeah, powerful question, a great place to close. Let me tell you three things. Number one, you said you work at the museum? So number one, I want you to do everything you can. I want you to assign yourself. If you got to be a committee of one, that's okay. But you assign yourself to make sure that you talk to your bosses, your superiors, everybody in this institution, and everybody you know in this town. You make sure that every young person in this town who you come in contact with gets a chance to come see this exhibit. You got to really press that. This exhibit, more than anybody else, the target audience has got to be young people. The only way that these young folk will believe that they can be something different is if they see something different. And that's what I suggested earlier, that this exhibit will allow them to be reminded, and some of them not reminded, they don't even know. So some to be reminded, some to just know that there's a whole world out there. People tend to ask me in these interviews, well, Mr. Smiley, why should folk who are not black come see the exhibit? And I appreciate the question because it allows me to make a pitch to all my white friends. Come see America I Am. Because it's American history, not just black history. But the truth of the matter is, it's a whole bunch of our history that we, black folk, don't even know. Mm-hmm. So the first thing you got to do while this exhibit is here between now and September is get every young person you know, if you really care about exposing them. See, I say all the time that black kids are no worse than any other kids. I don't want to hear them stats. I don't want to hear it. You know what the problem is? Black kids do not get exposed, and other kids do.
City Corner would like to thank Mr. Tavis Smiley for taking the time to talk with us today. We would also like to encourage everyone to please come out to the Missouri History Museum and see the exhibit, America I Am, the African American Imprint. The exhibit will run through Saturday, September 25th. For additional information about the exhibit, please check out the museum's website, www.mohistory.org. Thanks, and see you next time on City Corner.